Hello everyone, I'm Skele the ADHDM, and today we are breaking out the session spread. Choosing where to spend our energy and attention during prep is important, making sure we don't waste our effort on things that will never be in the game before we prep the stuff that the players will actually see, but equally important is where our attention and energy goes during the game. If we could somehow absorb and act on all information perfectly, and make the world feel real and alive in the way that a computer handles a game engine, we wouldn't need to choose, but alas. I break everything we might track during the course of a session into 3 categories. There's the stuff the game assumes we're going to track no matter what, like where we are, who is there, monster hit points, initiative, charges or consumable magic items, and in some way or another, the passage of time. There's the more nebulous stuff that it is beneficial for us to track, like a player character's individual goals and motivations, what everyone else is doing while the players do their stuff, how everyone else, enemies, allies, gods, and other beings, feel about what the party does, and what will happen as a result. Then there's the stuff that feels like we should track to make things more real, whether holidays, food, sickness, injury charts. I do my best to track those 3 categories as interdependently as I can. The more I can tie things together with existing game mechanics, or at least to each other, the less time it will take during a session to write that stuff down and make decisions. For the session spread, I've combined 6 spreads onto 2 pages that I can use for batches of content I intend to last 1 or 2 weekly game sessions. On the left, I have party notes and consequences. For each party member, I list impending consequences they incur during the course of the adventure, and any other notes I want to refer back to later when I prep the next session. So if the rogue tries to pickpocket one of the Duke's guards and fails, but escapes, I can have that guard recognize the rogue later on and instigate a conflict. Or if the cleric acts in accordance with or against their god's values, I can work in a small miracle or curse down the road. If the warlock summons a devil to ask questions, I can spread word among the other devils of its kind and have that come back around in some kind of scheme. My goal here is for the players, weeks down the road, to suddenly remember what they did before and excitedly connect the dots. That is an awesome moment for me. I tend to take a lot of notes in those spaces, so it takes up the most space. Immediately to the right, I track the party's resources of note. Potions and scrolls, really powerful spells, magic items with limited charges, and non-material resources like favors owed or the languages each PC speaks. Down at the bottom, I have 2 bigger boxes to track HP and initiative during combat. On the next page, I start on top with the session outline. This is a list of scenes, and contained in each scene box is a list of index cards. I have index cards for locations, which allow me to list what the place looks like and feels like, who is there, and what they are doing. The location card also has encounters, and a symbol next to each encounter to tell us which version of it we're going to see, which I'll elaborate on later. Encounter cards have important creature stats like HP, AC, their main attacks and spells, and the initiative I pre-rolled when making the encounters. Below that is a place for non-player character consumables. I really like keeping track of these all together because in the case of potions, scrolls, or magic ammunitions, if the NPCs use these things, the party doesn't get them as treasure. It also lets me see each encounter's resources in one place, and I can measure that against the party's total resources on the previous page for game balance. To the right of the NPC consumables, I have the time tracker. I've talked about tracking time before, and rather than worrying about minutes and seconds, I break things down into more abstract terms. We can stay exact when we're talking about rounds of combat, but everything outside of that, we can keep it vague. Every time something happens that takes up time, like encounters, skill checks, explorations, travel, or rest, we can mark off how long it took. For normal combat encounters, out-of-combat skill checks that accomplish a single task, or other brief activities, we can mark off 1 or more moments. For short rests, spell rituals, detailed searches of a room, or drawn-out skill challenges, we can mark off a short while. For long rests, hours of travel, and exploration or tracking with no other goals or stops, we can mark off a long while. There's only 3 long whiles in a day, and one of them is usually spent resting. Looking back at our encounter cards, the longer the party takes to get to some encounters from the onset of the session, the more difficult they will be. This is because while the party rested and prepared, so did the other creatures. Some encounters will be the same no matter how much time passes, but if the party is fighting through a dungeon full of kobolds and they stop to rest for a long while, it's gonna get real Home Alone in the rest of the dungeon. I've always disliked the idea of the dungeon's big bad just kind of chilling until the party shows up, no matter how many days or weeks they spent resting. After a few sessions of this, the party will get the sense that the more time they give their enemies, the more challenging encounters might be down the road. And they get to choose between going in with fewer resources to face a less prepared opponent or biding their time to recover and losing the element of surprise. We can also script events in the time tracker. Maybe there's a big storm coming and on day 2 it finally hits. Maybe there's a bounty hunter or assassin after one or more of the party members and they only need 2 long whiles to catch up. There could be a holiday happening in 2 days, and on that day it is a blasphemy of the highest order to spill another's blood, even one's most bitter enemy. So the party needs to survive until then, or finish their bitter work before the feast. Maybe someone has been poisoned or cursed, and after 5 long whiles, it reaches its full effect. I love tracking time in this way and scheduling out encounters to keep the game world moving. All of this also breaks down into 3 stages of tasks. What we prepare before, that's the session outline spread and our location and encounter cards. What we track during the game, that's HP, initiative, consumables, time, and finally consequences. And then after the game, when we're prepping the next session, we can look at those consequences as an easy source of inspiration to set up encounters with narrative continuity and payoff. It works as a loop, where actually playing the game does a lot of the prep work for you. And as the party gets more involved in the game world, the consequences get more interesting. If you liked this journal spread, you can subscribe to the channel for more. If you use this session spread, I'd love to see what you do with it. You can tweet at me, comment below, or show us in the Discord server. Links in the description. You can find both my handwritten version and a printable version in a public post on my Patreon. There's also a patrons only post showing my design process for this spread, eraser marks and all. Thank you to my Antediluvian Lurker and Dungeon Delver tier patrons, Noah, KDB, IronTrash, Courtney Monster, Troy, Raspilicious, Shawn M, Shawn S, Sam, Borkware, Mitch B, and Adam M. And a special thank you to the newest Dungeon Buddy patron and the person who requested this video, Cynsue. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you can take what you need from this journal spread. And as always, thank you for watching.